happens is the exhaust gases, they are directed into the turbine wheel by the turbine housing. Now these gases are at a very high pressure, and they cause the turbine wheel to rotate about its axis. All right, and when the turbine wheel rotates, it in turn causes the compressor wheel to rotate about its axis, which is connected to the turbine wheel by a steel shaft or any other metal, I don't know. So when the compressor wheel rotates about its axis, it creates a vacuum kind of thing, and it sucks in air. So the airstream is which is sucked in, it is further directed into the compressor housing. Now the compressor housing, what it does is that it converts the airstream into a high pressure kind of airstream, high pressure gas, and this high pressure gas is further fed into the engine chamber. Now the thing is, how does the airstream, which is sucked in at a very high velocity and which is at a very low, at a low pressure, comparatively low pressure, how it gets converted into a high pressure airstream and at a low velocity? How does that conversion happen? Well, it happens by a process known as diffusion. So I don't want to get into that. So this is like the basic thing how a turbocharger works. Now this concept is in use since 1978, but it was not employed in bikes that much, because the makers try to keep the bike as uncomplicated as possible, because they made the engines more with more displacement capacities instead of with more engine displacement, instead of introducing such things. Okay, but now the thing is, there's a guy known as Nicolo who has introduced this back again, and he has done it on the Yamaha R3. Okay, he has done it on the Yamaha R3, and now, as you know, the Yamaha R3 is somewhat similar to the KTM Duke in terms of the horsepower that it generates. That is, it's about 42 to 43 brake horsepower, and Nicolo introduced this turbocharger in it, and it has propelled the brake horsepower of that bike into to I think 60 horsepower at 10,000 RPM. So yeah, so now he plans to introduce, he has already introduced it I think in the KTM Duke RC 390, and you will get to see it very soon, hopefully. And it is estimated that it will give out the same result, or probably even more, compared to the Yamaha R3, because the KTM Duke RC 390 is actually a 375cc engine. Okay. Oh yes, I forgot about the main thing. Now the thing is that these gases, this airstream is further directed into the engine chamber. Okay, after getting into the compressor housing, it is pressurized, and it is at a very high pressure and a low velocity, and is directed to the. Now it contains oxygen, right? So the main function of these gases, this airstream, is to burn more fuel. Correct? Yep. Now what happens is this causes a severe effect on the, not severe, but a moderate effect on the mileage. So the engineers, what they do is, in order to minimize the effect, they do certain modifications also. I'm not sure what modifications they do, but they bring that damage to a minimum. That is the before I get to that, I want to talk about airstream. Now the airstream, which when it gets pressurized in this compressor housing, it is let into the engine chamber. Now some companies, what they do is they also inject fuel into this compressed air while it is let into the engine, because it brings down the temperature of the gas. Because when you introduce a gas which is at a high temperature into the engine, then it also increases the temperature of the engine. Now, as you know, KTM RC 390 is already it produces a lot of heat. Now a little bit of fuel, when it's added to the gases, it brings down the temperature, and it helps in optimizing the burning of the fuel. Okay, because oxygen is the main constituent which helps in burning fuel, right? And that itself, it produces more horsepower. So company is also, this process is known as intercooling. Now there are various methods of intercooling, and the companies have their own formula, their secret formula, which they do intercooling by. Okay. Yep. Now coming back to the point, now this guy Nicolo is the one who is introducing this concept into bikes such as the Yamaha R3. Yamaha R3, right? Yamaha R3 is, as you know, is a bike which is similar to the KTM RC 390 in terms of the fact that it produces the same amount of power, roughly, that is around 42-43 bhp at about 10,000 rpm. The Duke RC 390 produces 42 bhp of power at 9,000 rpm, and it produces, this R3 produces 42-43 bhp at I think 10,500 rpm or something. So now the KTM RC 390 is basically a 375cc engine, but soon you'll get to see that bike and it will be titled as KTM RC 390 Turbo. So yeah, so the main aim of this video was to explain to you how the turbocharger works. Well, there are other concepts as well, like the superchargers and all. Now, superchargers entirely work on a different principle. This works on the exhaust gases. I'll just write it down, okay? This works on exhaust gases, right? Okay, entirely on exhaust gases, right? And whereas the supercharger works on the mechanical components of the engine, like the chain, the belt, whatever, the gears and all, pistons. Yes. Yeah. One more thing. Now you may think that since this turbocharger works on exhaust gases, it may create pressure on the it causes it is taxing on the back pressure exhaust, right? But it's not much, because what happens is that the turbine will basically functions on the expanding nature of the exhaust gases, right? So that is enough for it to rotate. So it will cause a little bit of pressure on the extra pressure on the gas, on the the exhaust back pressure. But at the end of the day, what happens is the expanding exhaust gases are anyways, they are lost in the form of heat through the tailpipe. So basically, the turbocharger is like this turbocharger. It helps to convert that amount of energy that which would have ultimately been lost into into useful energy, like like increasing the horsepower of the bike. So basically, yes, this is kind of a recycling kind of funda here. So I hope you understood what I'm trying to convey to you. And yeah, so definitely something interesting happening on the KTM Duke RC 390 scene. So many of you may be very interested in this thing. So I thought of making a video on this. So hopefully it'll come out soon. Even I'm interested, like finally how much horsepower they derive after introducing this turbocharger into the system of the bike. So yeah. Nowadays, what the thing is, with the advancement of technology, they use turbochargers along with superchargers. Like there is a kind of give and take, because everything has its own good things and bad things, right? Now the best part of a turbocharger is that it is very efficient. And the best part of a supercharger, now one more thing is that a supercharger, the difference between the supercharger and a turbocharger is that the supercharger works on the mechanical components of the engine, like the chain, and as I said earlier, maybe I've said, yeah. And whereas this turbocharger works on the exhaust gases. Now, when something works on the mechanical components of the engine, it causes unnecessary stress on the engine. So that that hinders the efficiency sometimes. But I've seen that in many cars which have superchargers, what they do is that if a car produces about 200 horsepower, like in its original state, when you introduce a supercharger, it produces horsepower that is 400 horsepower. That is like a net gain of 200 horsepower. So you can understand like what is the variation. In this case, 43 bhp originally, it produces 60 horsepower. So like you do the math, so it increases. Like it's not that much, but it's still it's a lot, because for a biker in India, it's like it's too much. 60 horsepower is like more than enough. So yes, so I'm really happy. Now, as far as now that I've come to the superchargers, I'll just explain it to you how a supercharger works also. Supercharger works on the mechanical components of the engine, like the belt and chain. So what happens is it produces extra amount of heat, more than the even the turbocharger, right? So when this extra amount of heat is produced, it can cause all sorts of problems to the engine. So companies, what they do is they have introduced intercooling in superchargers. It is mandatorily introduced, right? You have to introduce it, because otherwise everything can go wrong. So even in aircraft engines and all these things, they require these extra pieces that need to be added to the engine, so adjacent to the engine, so that there is like an efficient, so that there is an efficient what's that word, utilization of the engine, right? So that nothing goes to waste. So basically that's the thing. Now, as far as mileage is concerned, I don't know how much mileage is going to suffer, but I think it is going to be marginal because they're not stupid. Okay, they are not stupid to like drastically screw up the mileage of the bike, because that will in turn that will be so harmful for the selling of the bike, because no one will like go for a bike which is deficient in terms of mileage. Although there are some people like who will go, but for that there are other bikes, like there are like top end bikes like 600cc bikes and 1000cc bikes. Why would a person go for this bike if the mileage is going to be suffering so much? Yes, so as far as that is concerned, I don't know, maybe there will be a very marginal, I think a marginal decrease in mileage, but that's manageable. If you're getting like an extra boost of 17 horsepower, then who is gonna like think about, yeah. So anyways, this is the video which I wanted to make about the new bike. I hope you liked it, so please do like, share and subscribe to my videos. So thank you for watching. Frag out!